What if we told you that a simple change in team composition could lead to greater operational success and resilience in your workplace? Today, gender diversity is increasingly being recognized as a critical factor behind organizational success. In fact, achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls is a sustainable development goal. But there is a gap in our understanding of how gender diversity impacts team dynamics. Existing research has focused on organizational level diversity, leaving important questions unanswered. How does gender diversity affect team coordination? How does it influence adaptability to internal and external changes? What is the overall impact on team performance? Professor Vijaya Sunder at the Indian School of Business, along with his co-authors Manish Gangwar and Siddhartha Modukuri, explored an important question in their research. Do gender-diverse teams perform better in terms of operational performance compared to other teams? Their research provides insights into this question and the underlying mechanisms at play.
So, during my stint in the corporate world, I have managed teams which do projects, which work together to deliver operational performance. In both cases, whether it is a recurring operational work or a temporary project work, in both cases I have found gender diverse teams performing better. But this is again my observation as a manager. But is there a scientific evidence to say this? The answer is, from an operational perspective, the answer, there was a gap which was clearly existing. So on a personal level also, I'm quite motivated to explain why is this phenomena happening. Is it only an observation made by me, or is it a common phenomenon around the world?
The researchers took a routines-based approach to operations management. Routines are forms of knowledge, either tacit or explicit, that individuals develop through repeated actions aimed at achieving consistent outcomes.
Now in organizations, these routines are very important phenomena. When we get into a routine mode, there is an evidence in literature that these routines contribute to what we call as operational capabilities in organizations. So that means when a team gets into a routine, then the team can perform better than the teams which are not getting into a routine-based approach.
Professor Vijaya Sunder and his co-authors investigated the impact of gender diversity on team performance, hypothesizing that diverse teams are more efficient, establish routines faster, and adapt better to changes than homogeneous teams. To test this, the researchers ran 2 experiments using a custom card game called Target the Two, which requires collaboration to achieve specific goals. This setup allowed researchers to control variables like age and experience while focusing specifically on gender diversity. In Experiment 1, the researchers set up a 2-player game with 60 participants, where they compared 20 gender homogeneous teams to 10 gender diverse teams. They expanded the scope in Experiment 2 to 92 participants and a 4-player setup. Here, they compared 8 gender homogeneous, 8 gender unbalanced, and 7 gender balanced. Overall, the study involved 9,540 game instances with 152 participants across both experiments. During the game, the researchers measured several key outcomes, including the number of moves taken to reach the target and the time taken per game. These metrics served as proxies for resource and time efficiency, allowing the researchers to analyze how quickly and effectively different types of teams could establish routines. Then, to test the adaptability of these routines, the researchers introduced internal and external changes in both experiments. To mimic an internal change, the researchers introduced a role change in the team. And to mimic an external change, the researchers introduced a change in goal of the team.
So in the results, we actually found that gender diverse teams actually perform better than the gender homogeneous teams. We found that gender diverse teams are actually forming these routines faster than the gender homogeneous teams. That's our first key finding. And secondly, within gender diverse groups, we found the balanced gender diverse groups form routines much faster than the unbalanced gender diverse groups, and the gender homogeneous group. So we examined both in normal conditions, internal shock conditions, and external shock conditions in our experiment. In all the three conditions, we found that as the gender diversity increases in the team, the operational performance also increased. And in all the three cases, we found the routine formation is much faster in the gender diverse teams, and that's the reason why they're performing better.
But is routine formation the only reason or the only mechanism to explain the result of higher operational performance? To answer this, the researchers conducted a steady-state analysis. They compared the operational performance and associated incentives for the last 20 sequences across teams with different gender compositions. This allowed them to examine the stability and adaptability of teams in steady-state, post-routine formation after the chaos subsides. The researchers found that the performance of all teams improved with routine formation.
That means the gender diverse teams are not really performing better than the gender homogeneous teams once this optimal performance zone is reached. So the only reason why the overall results show a better performance by the gender diverse teams is now attributed to their routine formation point. How fast they form that change point, or how fast they reach that change point. Because once they reach the change point, their performance is no different from the performance of the gender homogeneous teams.
But what do these results mean from an organizational standpoint? In many organizations, operations managers grapple with the challenge of aligning hiring practices with top management's diversity policies. This often leads to a difficult dilemma. Should they prioritize gender diversity or focus on merit? Managers frequently find themselves uncomfortable navigating this tension, especially when strong candidates may not meet diversity criteria. This situation raises a critical question. Should hiring decisions be driven by policy mandates, or are there more compelling reasons to prioritize diversity?
Through this paper, we say managers that, hey, you need not really hire or promote gender diversity in your organization just because your policy forces it. But we give you an extra reason for it. And the reason is gender diverse teams actually perform and provide better operational performance in terms of time efficiency and resource efficiency. And that's the reason why managers need to hire more gender diverse teams in organizations.
Finally, this research underscores that promoting gender diversity not only improves the operational performance of organizations, but also contributes to the UN's Sustainable Development Goal 5, achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls. Fostering inclusive workplaces can pave the way for a more inclusive and successful future.